Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with another edition of The Last Rep brought to you by Iron Mag Labs. And of course, I'm here for the one and only. When you got an expert opinion, you only go to one man, of course. 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie Coleman. What's up, buddy?
Oh, not too much. Just hanging in there, trying to survive this heat down here in Texas. That's about it for me.
Yeah, it's been a little toasty down there, but I think he's going to be heating up in Vegas in just about a week's time now. Actually, next Thursday, we'll be at the press conference, of course, with the entire lineup. Joe Weider's 52nd Olympia being observed this year, of course, and lots of storylines, Ronnie, of course. But first and foremost, my friend, how are you doing? I see you're back in the gym. It looks like you got a little iron pumping, getting back in there, getting some feeling back in the limbs.
Yeah, I've been off about 6 months. Doctor told me to take about 6 months off, and the surgery would fully heal because I had the same surgery last year, and I took 3 months off, and that wasn't enough. So bones broke, screws broke.
Jeez.
So we had to redo this thing all over again. And he said, for sure, 6 months will heal everything. So that's what I did. Everything seems to be healed up. I just need to get my strength back and get some of this numbness to go away, and I'll be okay.
Now, did he? I know you and I have talked progressively, obviously, throughout the last few years through the many surgeries now, and hopefully that's the last one you're going to have for quite some time, my friend. So,
Yeah, man.
But it's more of a nerve problem at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. That's why I don't have the feeling back. My right leg's totally numb. My left leg is probably about 50% numb.
Now, was that better than it was, or the same, or was it worse before?
Oh, it's worse in a way because before the surgery I didn't have all this numbness. They sliced me from the side.
Jeez.
And they sliced me from the back, and they cut a lot of nerves doing all that slicing. So they had to put in 2 cages that were very large. They had to put in 2 spacers that were kind of big, and they put 6 screws in from the back. So.
Oh man, you are the bionic man at this point, bro. You've got all kinds of steel.
12-hour surgery.
Yeah, wow.
No fun at all.
I'm glad to see you're still smiling through it all, and I know you're next happy to get back into the gym, so take it easy there, big man. Don't try to break any records, all right?
Exactly. There's no records to be broken now.
Well, speaking of, it's a good segue for us, Ronnie. Speaking of breaking records, obviously the Olympia is upon us. Once again, a special time of year, especially for yourself. I've had the pleasure of being on stage with you for most of your Olympia wins. The last one coming in 2005, and obviously you hung it up not too long after that. But what's this time? Does this time of the year still special for you? You still kind of get that feeling when the Olympia comes around and all that?
No, not really.
No?
I used to have that, I kind of lost it after I kind of quit competing. Probably maybe a couple of years afterwards, you kind of lose all that.
Sure.
And you get off into other things, and other things get bombarded on your mind. So I got a lot of other things on my mind right now, So the Olympia is still special to me, but, since I'm not competing in it anymore, it's not as special.
Sure. Well, do you still follow the sport at all? Do you know a lot of the new guys? Are you still following who's on top, who's winning shows, Dexter, whoever?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to always do that. That's just part of who I am. Part of who I've always been for the last 20-some odd years or whatever. So, yeah, I'm always going to follow the sport and keep up with it.
Well, clearly a student of the game, and I always appreciate that, Ronnie, because it's great to catch up with you. The big news, of course, short of the obvious, Phil going for number 6 and trying to catch up to you, is our old friend Kevin Levrone is back in the mix and will be back on stage in a week's time at the Olympia.
Yeah, more power to him. He's doing something I'd never even consider doing at this stage in my life. But Kevin, he quit kind of early. He's had a lot of time for his body to heal up and be real fresh. So I'm expecting him to do pretty good in the show, actually. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't do so good. He's had all this time to rest and recuperate. It should have like, of course, he can't start all over again. Once you've done this, you put all that wear and tear, and there's no, like rebuilding. You can't rebuild the body. But I'm still expecting him to do good from his experience, and from his time off.
Sure.
He's had plenty of time to heal up, refresh and recuperate. So he should do pretty good. Of course, I'm not expecting him to win or nothing like that, but I'm expecting him to be in the top 10 at least.
Well, that was my next question. And listen, if you can't be rested up with 13 years off the stage, Ronnie, I'm not so sure it's going to happen. So I'm sure
Exactly.
he's got his bearings and he's well rested. But he looks like he's made some good progress. Now, for those of you, you and I competed against Kevin.
Yeah.
Actually, me and Kevin were talking about this a couple weeks ago. Back in the '91 Nationals, all three of us were on that same stage with a host of other future superstars in the IFBB. But so obviously, we all go back a long time. And
Yep.
you know as well as I do, and you competed with Kevin on the pro circuit, obviously, throughout many of those years.
Oh, yeah.
If there's anybody that could do it, it certainly is Kevin Levrone. But it
Yeah.
looks to me, I mean, I've seen some recent video. It looks like he's kind of getting there. My only question is has it been enough time for us to get 100% out of what we're going to get out of Kevin? Now, I don't think there's any delusion that we're going to see a 1996 Kevin appear on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can only
Those
turn
days
back the
over
hands
with.
so
No.
much.
Exactly.
But you still give him enough consideration to have him in the top 10, though.
Yeah, I think he'd make the top 10. The only problem I see him falling off is thickness. You need to have that thickness that those young guys have, and if he can recapture that, he'll do pretty good. I noticed that right around when I started turning about 45, I started to lose a lot of muscle thickness, and that's the look that you need to compete on that high level. If he can recapture that, I don't know how he can do it. I guarantee you he'll be in the top 10, maybe even the top 5.
Well, that would be
he can
something.
recapture that muscle thickness.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's a big if, because like I say, after a certain age, and like I say, even for you at an advanced level. Now, keep in mind, I think people have to recognize, you were still Mr. Olympia at 45 years old.
Actually, you know what? I think I lost at 42. I like that was my last one. Because I remember Chris Dickerson was 42 when he won.
That's right, yeah.
His last one, and I think I was right around that same age.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, your last one was 05, correct? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would put me right around 41, 42, 41, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I was 64. Yeah. That put me right at 41. So I competed at 42 though, and
That's right.
I got second that year. So I won my last one at 41. So 40. Yeah, I think right around 45 is when I started seeing the thickness go, and
Sure.
ain't nothing you can do to get it back. Not that I know of.
Well,
you just don't have that same volume. The body don't.
Sure.
The testosterone level don't produce like it used to.
Yeah, I'm sure there's many factors, obviously, but Kevin's in uncharted water. Listen, the fact that he can actually get on the Olympia stage and represent, because I don't think there's any stretch that, listen, is Kevin going to be a top, 3 contender? No, I don't believe so.
No.
Could he do top 10? Yeah, maybe. And we'll see. Like I said, it's really depends on how much thickness he can put together, in this short amount of time. But the fact that 52 years old, that you can even get out there and do yourself some justice, I think is incredible, really, honestly.
Well, you got to look at the past. I remember Al Beckles, when I last saw him compete, he was 61 in 1992. And I saw him backstage. I'm like, man, how old are you? He said, I'm 61.
Right.
And he had just won a show the year before. He had won in Niagara Falls or something like that.
Yeah,
at 60.
that's right.
So Kevin is 52. And Al had great thickness back at 60 years old. He had a nice shape, nice body and everything. To even win a show at 60 is a major accomplishment. So Kevin at 52, I think he could do just as good as Al Beckles did back then.
Well, interestingly, some months back, I initially interviewed Kevin on this show And my question was very pointed. Are you going to compete past the Olympia? Will we see Kevin Levrone? Will you get back in the mix? You think he was adamant that no, look at this is a one-show deal, Olympia. I'm done after that. That's it. Now,
Yeah.
I just interviewed him a week or so ago, and he's changed his tune a little bit. And so all of a sudden, he ain't ruling it out. You know what I mean? He's like, well, we're going to kind of see, and So I think he's got a little fire back in him. And let's face it. I mean, we've seen Kevin walking around at 200 pounds for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And as far removed from old Kevin Levrone as could possibly be. And now he's got looks like he's definitely got some size back. He's going to be on the Olympia stage. And my opinion was, look, you come a long way to get yourself back here. So why not go compete in some other shit? Go on the circuit. But isn't that kind of a long way to go, Ronnie? Not really. I mean, why would you do a one-off? I mean, why not go back in the circuit at least for a year?
Yeah, it all depends on the motivation you have for it. You got to have a certain type of desire to do this because it's so much hard work, so much dedication, so much sacrifice. Kevin knows exactly what he got to go through to do all of this stuff. It's just if he's willing and does he have that motivation to do it.
Well,
if you don't have all those things, you can forget it.
True. Yeah, true. And you know that better than anybody. But
exactly.
It was funny because we were kind of reminiscing a little bit. And I says, do you miss any of that? Like, do you miss being big and all that? And he's like, well, listen, yeah, I like having the size back and my strength and all that in the gym. He says, however, I bend over to tie my shoes. I can't breathe. I can't. I sleep. My arms. I got to put pillow under my arm. My arm's falling asleep. He starts kind of going through this Rolodex of all those familiar things that certainly guys like yourself remember. And what is that? I mean, when you think back to your Olympia days, let's just say the last 2 or 3 or whatnot. What kind of images pop into your mind when you think back to those days?
I didn't have any problems. I didn't have any major problems. I slept good. I was real healthy. I wasn't in any kind of pain. Only difference between now and back then is the time. Nothing's really changed. Of course, I might be in a little bit more pain now than I was back then. Back then, I felt like I was Superman and I could do anything. So, holding 325 pounds compared to holding this, 245 that I got now, it's really no big difference. The only difference is back then I was weighing more.
Sure.
That's it. I didn't have any problems at all. I was real flexible. I could do splits and all that kind of stuff, and I stressed a lot and kept myself in good shape. I always did my checkups and everything, and kept my liver and kidneys and everything in order, and kept my health real high up there in good health all the time. Kept my cholesterol down. So there's really no big difference between now and then. None whatsoever.
Sure. Well, it was interesting because, clearly Kevin is in a place that he hasn't been in some time, in terms of muscle mass, in terms of walking around. And I think he misses it. I think, clearly he's like, look, this is who I am. I did miss it, and I'm kind of glad to be back. So he didn't rule out shows after the Olympia, which I'm kind of looking forward to. I'd like to see Kevin. And I got to be honest, I'd like to see him with a year of training, Olympian training under his belt.
Yeah,
I mean, I know he's been kind of hurrying this one up a little bit, but man, I'd love to see him with another year, of top-notch training. He may be better at 53 than he's at 52.
Well, you never know. I mean, if I could go back and do it all over again, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'm not gonna lie, because I miss it like I missed my right leg if I didn't have it. That's just how much fun I had back in those days.
Well, it's always fun when you're collecting sandows and putting up 800-pound squats and all that fun stuff you were doing back then. So let's talk about. We're going to wish Kevin the. Oh, I see a little one back there. I see you.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got different priorities now, Ronnie. There's still some little ones running around. You got business. Obviously, we'll get into that in a few minutes. But I want to turn our attention to Phil Heath. And obviously, Phil, your 5-time winner, looking to become number 6. He's out on the heels, of course, of Dorian Yates, and then, of course, Arnold before he gets to himself and the great Lee Haney. So give me your assessment on Phil today.
What was that?
Give me your assessment on Phil Heath today.
Oh, I saw some recent pictures of Phil. He looked it real good, and he's at that age now that his body is going to start peaking a lot, and he's going to start looking real good. So I'm expecting big things from him. Because I remember when I turned about 38, 30, 39, somewhere in there, that's when my body really started peaking. That's when I started getting, the real muscle separation, definition, the hardness, and everything started looking really good. So I'm expecting big things from Phil now. So he's at that age now where his body is going to start peaking here in the next couple of years, and he should be getting a little freakier now. If it don't happen now, it's not going to happen.
Sure. Well,
I'm expecting big things from him this year and in the years to come.
See, I'm with you on that one, Ronnie. I think, I've heard other speculation that perhaps he's peaked already, and we haven't seen the best Phil.
There's no way.
I'm with you, man. I think you haven't seen the best Phil you're going to see yet. I think he's coming into his prime. I think a bodybuilder's prime is between 35 and 40 for most mortals. Yourself.
40 is when I really started to get real strong, and I peaked out real good. That's when I came in like 295 at the Olympia. That's when I was squatting 800 for reps and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm with you. 35 to 40 is when a bodybuilder really peaks. So we should see the best of Phil Heath coming up in the next 3-4 years if he doesn't get seriously injured or nothing, which I doubt the way he trains.
Yeah, he's not. With all due respect, he's no Ronnie Coleman.
No, he's not out doing no 800-pound squats and 800-pound deadlifts and 2,300-pound leg press. So,
well, in fairness to Phil Heath, neither is anybody else. So,
he should be around for the next 4 or 5 years, real easy.
Well,
if he keeps going at the rate he is.
It'll be interesting to see because obviously we've got a new crop of guys that are coming up. But I want to focus on some of the veterans right now. Dexter Jackson certainly seems to be following in those same footsteps in terms of his whatever contract he signed with Father Time or the Devil, one or the other. Dexter, he looks the best I've ever seen him, I think, to this point. And he's what, 47 now himself?
Yeah, he's getting up there too. I think, some of these guys, they have this Al Beckles effect where the older they get, the better they get. Al had that, and it's not like it's never been done before.
Right.
We've seen it done in the past with older guys. So we shouldn't be real shocked. The fact that Lee Haney retired at 31, 32, somewhere in there, and then Jordan Yates went out pretty early. You saw a trend where guys were going out early, and you thought, well, maybe things are changing. No, things are not changing. More things change, the more they remain the same.
Yeah, true that. If you've been around long enough as we have, you again, we've seen this play out before.
Yeah,
it doesn't happen often. Don't get us wrong.
No.
But Dexter is clearly an exception to the rule.
A few guys. It only happened with a few guys.
Sure.
And I think Dexter, is one of those guys that he got that Al Beckles effect. Kevin is trying to bring it back. Just have to wait and see how long he lasts with it.
Well, in deference to Dexter, now, listen, he's clearly the veteran of the group on that stage. He's been doing this for 17 years straight now, I think, at the pro level. He's got a whole listen, clearly a Hall of Famer in the future and all that kind of good stuff. But does he realistically have a chance of beating Phil, or does Phil have to come in way off for Dexter to have that chance?
No. Phil is on the uprise, he, like I said, we hadn't seen the best Phil yet. Dexter can get better, but he can't get, the same as Phil because Phil just, he's just so far ahead of him. He got all that size that ain't going nowhere, and Dexter is not going to get to that size. No matter what he does, he's not going to be a Phil Heath. He's not going to be, 245, 250 on stage. That'll never happen with him. But Phil, he has that possibility of that happening because he's been that size before. So he's only going to get better and better as years go by. Phil is just at a stage where Dexter can never be, because he just don't have the frame and don't have the size.
Sure.
So I can't see Dexter beating Phil, No, not with that size. He had to be way, way, way off.
Right.
way. I mean, he was off last year,
And he still won.
and he still was.
Yeah.
So I don't know how off he could be and still win.
Well, that was, now we were having this debate the other day. I went on PBW with our old friends Dan Solomon and Chad Nichols, the guy you're familiar with, and
Yep.
So we were talking Olympia and all that. Now my contention was exactly what you just said. I said, look they says, why don't you believe anybody can beat Phil at this Olympia? I says, because he's been off and he's beaten these guys for the last 5 years. And
Exactly.
and listen, Kai Green is not in the Olympia this year. He's out. He was a serious contender, but he's gone. So that leaves, obviously, Dexter, Sean Roden, Big Ramy is probably your top contenders in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you get into the Cedric McMillans and Justin Comptons, and again, some other guy, Ruli Winkler. Again, there's a good list of guys. Listen, it's top notch.
Exactly.
But if they can't beat Phil when Phil comes in off, what are they going to do when he's on?
Exactly. So point. You just made a very good point. So I'm with you on that. I just don't see it happening. Phil is just too far ahead. He's got the best shape ever. And he won when he was off. He's not going to be off too much longer.
I don't think so either. I'm sticking with what I've said from day one. I think we may see the best Phil Heath we've seen since 2011 or 2012. We'll see that play out. I think he's looking to prove a point now. I think he's got some fire in him. I think he's taken a lot of criticism over the years. Let's face it, he's been the first Olympian really. Jay caught it a little bit, but Phil's really the most modern in terms of he's got to deal with social media. All these outlets really weren't around. There was a little bit of internet, but nothing crazy, as you know.
Exactly.
But I've contended for the last couple of years. I think the biggest threat to Phil isn't Dexter. It's not Sean Roden. It wasn't any of those guys. I still think the two biggest threats to Phil, if they can get their stuff together, and they might still need a little help from Phil, is Big Ramy and Cedric McMillan.
Well, I don't know.
Well, let's stick with Big Ramy for a second. Does this guy have the tools? Because let's face it, he's a lot different looking than Phil. Like, to me, Roden is not as good a version of Phil than Phil is. Same thing with Dexter. God bless him. All due respect to these guys. Again, he's not going to be a better Phil than Phil is. So to me, you got to be different to beat Phil. You got to have that freaky factor or something. Does Big Ramy have that? Is that a guy in the cards that you see as a future Mr. Olympia, or not really?
I mean, future maybe down the road, but not no time soon. He's just got a lot of work to do. He got to get his shape together.
Sure.
His legs are just way, way, way too big. I don't know what he's going to do to get them in proportion with the rest of his body. And I think it's going to take some years for him to get there. He's just not on the same level. I don't know how old he is. I think he's
in his 30s.
Young. Yeah. 30s. Yeah, he got plenty of time, but he's just not on the same level as Phil. And as far as
Cedric
McMillan, man, I just don't see it in him either. I mean, he just don't have that shape that Phil has. He don't have the size, for a big guy, for a big tall guy like Cedric McMillan, he needs a whole lot of muscle mass, and he just don't have a whole lot. And I don't think his frame is built to carry that much either. He's like perfect where he at now.
Right.
For him to get bigger, would it throw him off a little bit? And, would it throw his shape off a little bit? You never really seen a real tall guy besides Arnold carry the size.
True.
I mean, even Arnold didn't have that much size. You never seen a real tall guy with a whole lot of size compared to a smaller guy who's a lot shorter with that kind of size.
Yeah, it's difficult. Over 5'11", 6 foot tallish, it's a different land. I mean, it's clearly yeah. You gotta picture how he would look too. Would his shape be okay with all that size? Compared to a short guy with all that size, I don't know, and I just don't see a big tall guy putting on that kind of size either. No, I've seen Sean Roden make some improvements over the years. Again, the last few, definitely a contender. Some people could have made a chance for runner-up even last year. Yeah. I didn't see that personally. I mean, I had Dexter solid in second. Has Sean Roden made the improvements for a serious run at Phil Heath, or is he strictly challenging Dexter for second place?
Right now he's challenging Dexter for second place because, like you said, he needs a lot of size and just Miss Olympia, you got to have a great back, and he just not there yet. Once he puts on the size that he needs, then he can be a bigger contender. But right now, he just don't have the size. He got good shape and everything, but he just needs a little bit more size, and his back and his arms could be a little bit more rounded too. So
sure.
It's just a different look in the physique. Phil got all these round, crazy muscle bellies that nobody on stage really have now. So it's just going to be so hard to beat him.
Well, and the question becomes...
Nobody has roundness that he has. I mean, it's just crazy, freaky roundness.
That's Olympian muscle right there. He, my big question, to me, as Sean Roden now, again, I say this with all due respect to these guys. They're all Olympians. We all get all that.
Yeah, they're all great now.
However, if he could have made those improvements, if he could have gotten that size, if he could have brought his back and his arms, wouldn't he have done it by now? Like, is he going to make more progress in his 40s than he did in his 30s?
Yeah, but how old is he right now?
He's got to be pushing 40, if not.
Oh, wow. We just said about maxing out,
right?
Speaking is between 35 and 40, and if he's already at 40, and it ain't happened yet, it's really not going to happen, I mean, he might have a chance of pulling off a Dexter, but like you said, that only comes around only so often,
Sure.
You had Al Beckles, and now you got Dexter trying to do it. Not a lot of guys are going to be able to do that.
Well, another of the old guard. Years ago, we were at the press conference having some fun, and I asked, "Okay, Ron, if you had to anoint somebody as your successor, who would it be?" Without hesitation, you turned and you said Victor Martinez, which I know gave Victor a huge boost at the time to have the current Mr. Olympia basically saying, "Hey, man, this guy can take my spot one of these days." Has that window closed? I mean, we've seen a resurgence of Victor over this last year, but let's face it, that was a lot of years ago now that we had that conversation.
Yeah. As far as that goes, I think it's too late for him to do anything. I think his window was when beat Jay and they gave it to
07.
They gave it to Jay anyway.
Yeah, 07.
Yeah. I think, it comes a time when it's your time and you don't win, it really don't really come back around again, Time just passes you by and you don't get any better. You're just stuck in the rut for the most part. You just plateau and
Sure.
You don't get any better. And I think he's just about plateaued, and I don't really see him getting any better than he's been in these last few years.
Well, we talk about the veterans, Ronnie. We got there's a whole crop of new guys that are out now, which the next generation. You can see the shift. You can see the old guard starting to go out. Although Dexter's been saying for 8 years now he doesn't know how much gas he's got left in the tank. He's got the biggest gas tank I've ever seen with anybody because he's been talking about that for years now, and he's still going strong. But clearly the exception, not the rule. But I look at guys now, Jocelyn Arowitz from Australia. Nathan Diasha, another new guy, tremendous physique. Steve Kuklo, but most impressively, Dallas McCarver. This kid, I think, honestly, could be one of those guys that sneaks in there this year. He could be taking some people out, but he reminds me a lot of yourself in terms of the strength department. Some of the moves he's in the gym, some of the poundages he's throwing around is pretty impressive. But big boy, he's 6'1". Plus,
Yep.
And he's put on some size this year. But I tell you what, that's a guy I'd be looking out for.
Yeah. You never know when me is gonna come around. I caught everybody by mistake. They didn't really see me coming. I went from like 9th to 1st.
Oh yeah.
And I've told people, that's always a possibility. It happened before, and it can happen again. So, you never know when this Dallas McCarver guy, it's just, he come out of nowhere and just catch you off guard. And next thing you know, you got a new Mr. Olympia. But it's going to be hard to overcome Phil, though. Yeah, I was able to do it because Dorian Yates had pretty much retired.
Right.
So, I don't see Fear retiring no time soon. So,
Now,
he
Ronnie,
may be
you're
able to, jump in the top three.
sure.
That's saying something in itself.
Well, Ronnie, give me the mindset of where Phil's at right now. You're one of the few people that have actually been in these shoes. You were at number 5. You're going for number 6. You won your 6.
Mm-hmm.
You were in prime time in terms of your, conditioning, your size, your strength, and all that good stuff. Phil's not too many years behind where you were at that point, if maybe 1 or 2, in terms of age. What's the mindset of Phil Heath right now? He's pushing for number 6? Does it get tougher as you go? Do you settle into kind of a rhythm in there?
No, Phil is highly motivated. I'm telling you right now, I don't see nobody taking him out in the next 2 or 3 years. He's going to get better. He's going to get a little bit, like I said, he's going to become a little bit more motivated. He's going to get a lot of criticism, and that's just going to bring the bear out in him. That's pretty much what happened to me. People talk about me saying, I was over and done. I was like, okay, I'll show you what's over and done.
Right.
It ain't over and done until I say it's over and done. So he's just going to continue to get motivated. These haters are going to fuel his fire, and he's just going to get better and better and better. And he's just going to put it out of these people's reach, and ain't nobody really going to have a chance. And that's what I see happening to the field in the next 2 or 3 years. He's going to get motivated by all these people talking bad about him, because he's had a bad few years there, when he came in off. He's not going to keep coming in off, especially with people talking about him like that, especially with him knowing that he's gotten a gift these past couple of years, that just going to fuel his fire. He's just going to get better and better, and he's just going to become motivated to shut these people up, and he's just going to continue to get better.
Well, Ronnie,
he's just going to continue to get motivated.
Sure. As you just mentioned, you were in the same situation. I mean, I was there for number 6, 7, 8. And you could see a shift in the, you were the most, people absolutely loved you. When you first came out, you won that Olympia in 98. Man, you could have ran for president and beaten everybody that year. In 99 and 2000 and 2001, and you can go but right about number 5 or 6, I could see the pendulum kind of start to shift. And Jay was getting a lot of support. Is it just a natural reaction that people want to see the champ go down? They start rooting for the underdog? But how did you deal with the negativity in terms of, you saw it. Listen, you were on stage right there as I was. You could hear the differences in applause. Not that you didn't have your fan base, because certainly you had a bunch of fans out there, obviously, and very popular. Yeah. But you could feel a shift. You could see a momentum and all that kind of. How did you deal with all that?
I developed a motto, and my motto is, if you want to go to war, I'll take you to war. I knew I had the necessary tools to become Mr. Olympia. I had wanted, all these years. I knew what I had to do. And the only way to get better at something is to become better. And that's what I did. I just became better. I got a little bit stronger, and I got a little bit more motivated from people talking noise and hating on me, saying I wasn't going to be able to do it. So I just lit a fire under my own ass and went in there and trained my butt off, and the results just pretty much spoke for themselves.
Does it get harder to hang on to that title with number 7 and number 8, or did the motivation of being the all-time greatest, being up there with Lee Haney, or even possibly at that point surpassing Lee Haney, was that enough to keep that fire going strong?
I never thought about a record or anything. I was just thinking about trying to win. It was 1 year at a time, one day. Never thought about a record. I never thought about surpassing Lee Haney. I was just thinking about, people think I'm finished and done. I'm gonna show them. And years just passed by, and I just kept winning and kept winning. And once you get that fuel, you have that fire, you just want to hold on to that title for as long as you can, and you're willing to do whatever it takes. At least I was, to hold on to it. And we saw what I did in the gym. Like I said, I just lit my own fuel under my own ass, and I just went in there and just trained like a madman for the most part. I wasn't just going to give up the title that easy, and that was my main motivation right there, not giving up the title.
Well,
Because
Ronnie,
once you won and you had it all those years, you just want to keep having it.
Well, Ronnie, take me back to that last Olympia titles. It was 2005, I believe, was the year. You win number 8. It ties you with Lee Haney, the all-time greatest in many people's eyes, surpassing, obviously, the great Arnold Schwarzenegger. Past the show. Now, obviously, listen, it's emotional, of course. You just won. You defended your title. You're tied with the all-time great. After that show, I mean, did it ever occur to you this would be the last time and the last title? Did it ever come into play that, you know what, I'm going to get number 9, or I'm going to be the all-time greatest, or did you know at that point like it was going to be an uphill battle?
Actually, for me, like I said, I was lighting up my own fire, and for the most part, I just knew I had number 9. Actually, it was a foregone conclusion. I knew what I had to do to win number 8. I did it. And so number 9 wasn't really going to be any difference, For as far as I'm concerned, to this day I still think I won. But right. things that happen, for a reason, and things don't ever go the way that you want them. Don't always go the way that you want them to. So you're pretty much happy and content with the way things turned out, and just going about your business. But as far as I'm concerned, after I won number 8, number 9 wasn't going to be no problem either, because I knew what I had to do.
Sure.
And all I had to do was just do it and get up on that stage and just show everybody.
Well, Ronnie, you mentioned that Phil obviously is coming off the last couple of years. I think that's universally pretty much agreed upon that it's not been his best the last 2 years in particular. However, he still comes out with the win. You refer to him as gifts. And I just want you to be able to clarify that. Now, does that imply that you think somebody else should have won, or just that, listen, he was still rightfully awarded the title based on the fact that he was the champion? He was still the best. But, like I want you to clarify that, though. Did you have somebody else winning the last 2 years, or did he rightfully give it to him, in your opinion?
I kind of think somebody else won, but, just that one, just last year is one that I was there. I didn't see the other ones,
So you had Dexter winning last year, then?
Yeah, I had Dexter winning last year. I actually thought it was a foregone conclusion as far as I'm concerned.
Wow.
And then I'm quite sure he knew he wasn't at his best, and that's why I don't see that happening this year. I think he's been motivated since that day.
Sure.
Because that's the way it was with me. When people thought I shouldn't have won that 1 year, and I came back the next year. Was it 02? I came back in 03, and I was a different person.
Yeah, you were a whole lot different person at about 290 pounds on stage, so that was quite a sight to behold. If I remember.
I see that same thing happening in the field. I see him doing the same thing. So I'm expecting real big things for him this year. Real big things.
Let me ask you: does the champ merit some consideration? I mean, in your opinion, and that's, again, you've been there. You've had some years greater than others. Obviously, you're the first to admit that.
Yeah, I told it. Yeah, of course I'm gonna admit that. Yeah, I think you should be like completely knocked off the throne. So I didn't completely disagree with him winning.
Sure.
They gave him the tackle, and I think he still deserved it. He still put in all the work and all that kind of stuff. He just came in and slid off.
Yeah, but your
there
point,
was some other guys just a little bit harder than him, but.
Sure.
Of course, I don't just be told with him winning. Of course.
Yeah, I got you. So really, what you're saying is, look, I didn't have any issue with him winning, but they could have made a case for Dexter.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any problem either way, really.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So that always gets interesting when you talk about whether you have to knock out the champ, whether you have to just beat the champ by 1 point. I mean, listen, as the sitting champ, I do think there is some consideration that's given there that. I don't think you have to necessarily knock him out either, but I think you do have to beat him pretty soundly.
Of course, being a champion, you don't want to have to agree with that.
No, you're right.
So there was some years I came in kind of off too, and I did lose the morning show, in 2001, and I almost lost lost the whole thing. I just came in a lot tired and got myself together by the time we came back for the night show. So yeah, you're gonna face some difficulties along that that trail of victory somewhere along the line. It ain't gonna always be easy, and it ain't gonna always be pretty.
Sure. Interestingly, and I don't know if this is a mind thing, a body thing, but maybe you can lend some insight. I don't think I've ever seen Phil come in spot on Friday and then improve on it. He's always been a little bit off Friday, and then he comes back Saturday very strong. I mean, very good,
Yep.
crisp, more dialed in. Is that a physique thing? Is it a prep thing? Is it a nerve thing? What do you think, in your opinion? I mean, and we've seen this over and over now. It's not like a one-off.
For me, it's more of a nerve thing, I think, because with me, I remember, and it could be a prep thing too, because in 2001, I had already peaked at the Arnold that year,
Right.
and that's why I was kind of off. So I had done everything that I needed to do to win. My body just didn't cooperate with me, and I think the same thing happened to Phil, where his body just didn't cooperate with him for whatever reason. I heard one year he was real sick.
Yep.
That happened to me too before. I was real sick one year too. That I came in kind of off. So even though it could be a prep thing, it could be a nerve thing. As long as you just pull it together, by the time that it needs to be pulled together,
Sure.
I think it should be justifiably a winning decision for you when you get the win.
Well, Phil soundly earning the nickname Mr. Saturday Night, and I'll be interested to see how that pans out this year. I'm with you 100%, Ronnie. I think we see the best Phil Heath we've seen. I think this guy's got a fire under his ass that's been lit, not from the other competitors per se, but I think from the public and from his own actions of, he knows he's better than that. He knows he can what he's got and what's he's capable.
Exactly.
So I think he's very
motivated,
exactly, to come in there and to establish his place, to take that number 6 en route to obviously Arnold, hopefully get up there with yourself and Lee Haney in a couple. But hey, that's why they play the game, man. I mean, we're going to see this in less than a week, or 1 week, I should say.
Exactly. I'm expecting big things from him, for sure.
Well, Ronnie, before I let you go, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the business of Ronnie Coleman and how that's booming, the Ronnie Coleman Signature Series. I know, despite your setbacks, injuries, healing, and all that, you really haven't sold down too much in terms of travel and getting that gospel out of Ronnie Coleman supplements. So how's business?
Business is great. Of course, I was highly profiled in, Inc. 500 last year, and we were the fastest growing I think it was number 1 fastest growing supplement company, and overall was like number 11 or somewhere in there. I don't know. It's all in the magazine, and of course I hadn't read it lately. I just know that this year is going to be even better year than last year. So things are really coming along real good for us.
Very nice, sir. Glad to hear that, and I know you've obviously worked very hard at bringing that company up. Like I said, you've had a lot of
real hard.
Yeah, real hard. And I've asked you before. We've done many seminars together, things like that. And I've always asked you, what's harder, Ronnie, winning Olympias or running a supplement company? You've always said
running a supplement company.
Running a supplement company.
By far, the hardest thing I ever done in my whole entire life.
There's a lot of moving pieces there, and like I say, it's an interesting display when you say, look at winning a Sandow is easier than this stuff, that I got to deal with.
Yeah, you can't use your genetics when it comes to business.
No, that's all up here. But luckily, you got that degree, and you got that degree in accounting, which really comes in handy.
Which helps out a whole lot.
It sure does, buddy. Do you have a booth at the Olympia? Where will we see you, Ronnie?
No, I'm gonna probably just be at Smart Shake signing over there with some of my sponsors and stuff. We won't have a booth this year.
All right. Well, I just want people to know where they can get to Big Ronnie there, get an autograph. I know you're always great with the fans in terms of. I've seen you sit there until every last one of them got a photo, got a shirt, a signed piece from you, poster. I applaud that because obviously without the fans, bro, we can't do what we do.
Exactly. So I'll be at Smart Shake signing as many as I can, Friday and Saturday.
Ronnie, any last-minute advices for Phil Heath?
Oh no, Phil already knows what he has to do, and I talked to him 2 weeks ago, and he's doing it. So yeah, all the advice I got for him is stay motivated, which
go.
I'm quite sure he's going to do.
All right, words of wisdom from 8-time Mr. Olympia, Ronnie. Appreciate you taking the time and catching up with all the fans out here in the bodybuilding world. We will see you, my friend, in 7 days in Las Vegas on Joe Weider's Mr. Olympia stage. Thanks a lot, champ.
Yeah, buddy.